Hey, and welcome back to Koala Moon. I'm Abby, and tonight we have Goodnight Jungle, a soothing bedtime story collection with cozy rain sounds. Before we begin, I've got a tiny request. Koala Moon's a new channel, but currently only 1 in 10 of you subscribe. By subscribing, you'll show YouTube that you value the channel, which will help us grow. So tap subscribe now so we can keep bringing you the bedtime stories you love. Thank you, and shall we begin? When the Lumberjack Met the Orangutan by Gillian Rogerson. On an early morning in May, a helicopter flew over a lush green rainforest in Borneo. Inside the helicopter was a young man called Samuel Carter, who was training to be a lumberjack. He was going to spend a day in the forest looking for trees that could be felled and used for building materials. It was a beautiful day, and the sun shone brightly over the canopy of vibrant leaves. Samuel looked out of the window and saw the helicopter's shadow moving smoothly over the swaying treetops. Below the trees, he saw a river flowing gently through the forest. His eyes widened in surprise when he saw a flash of orange moving through the treetops. Could it be? Samuel smiled to himself. The forest below was home to orangutans, and he wondered if he had just seen one. His father was a lumberjack too, and when he was younger, Samuel had travelled with his father through many forests around the world, but neither of them had been lucky enough to see an orangutan. But maybe, just maybe, this would be his lucky day. The helicopter continued over the rainforest and flew over a large clearing. On the horizon was Cloud Mountain. The top part of it was covered in soft, fluffy clouds, and Samuel thought it looked like the mountain was wearing a hat made of cotton wool. The pilot found somewhere to land and brought the helicopter down smoothly. Samuel collected his bag, thanked the pilot, and climbed out of the helicopter. He stood back a little and waved to the pilot as the helicopter rose to the sky and flew away. The sound of its rotating blades echoed softly in the air for a few seconds. Samuel watched the helicopter until it disappeared from view. He slowly turned around and took in the beauty of his surroundings. The rainforest was spectacular. Tall, thick trees reached towards the sky. Rope-like vines hung between moss-covered trunks and moved gently in the tropical breeze. Leafy vines wound around branches like tinsel on Christmas trees. Sounds of nature filled the air. Brightly coloured insects buzzed through the tropical air. Exotic birds called out to each other. Unseen animals shuffled through the thick undergrowth. The sound of running water came from somewhere nearby, perhaps a stream or waterfall. The sun was warm on Samuel's back, and the fragrance of wild flowers and lush vegetation drifted towards him on the warm air. The air was fresh and clear, and Samuel took some deep, refreshing breaths. Relaxation and peace flowed easily through him, making him smile. Samuel walked away from the clearing and into the trees. The sun's rays flowed through gaps in the trees and caused shadows to dance across the forest floor. Samuel wandered between the trees, his footsteps light and carefree. Even though he'd been to other forests, this rainforest was more beautiful than any other he'd visited. There was a magical feel to it, as though it was enchanted somehow. Samuel felt like something amazing could happen at any moment. The leaves were greener than any others he'd seen. The air was fresher. The surrounding sounds mingled together to make a soothing song of nature. He sighed happily and continued walking. It was wonderful to be outside on such a beautiful day and in such a peaceful place. Samuel became lost in the magnificence of the forest, and it wasn't long before he realized he'd forgotten which direction he was supposed to be going in. He had planned his route through the rainforest days before, but he hadn't followed it at all today, and had let his feet guide him along. But it didn't worry him at all. He was happy to be lost in such a delightful place. Soon Samuel came to a gently flowing river. He lowered himself at the side of it and cupped his hands into the crystal clear water. He trickled the cool liquid over the back of his neck. It felt refreshingly cool. He looked downstream to see where the river was heading, and that was when he saw them. A mother orangutan and her baby were sitting further along the riverbank. Under the watchful eye of his mother, the little one was cupping his hands into the water, just as Samuel had done. And then he poured it over the back of his neck and let out a cheerful noise that sounded like a giggle. The joyful sound made Samuel smile. He didn't want to draw any attention to himself, so he stayed as still as he could and continued to watch the mother and her baby. The mother's fur was a glorious orange colour with hints of red running through it. Her baby's fur was a lighter orange, and tufts of fluffy hair stuck up at all angles around his face, making him look even more adorable. A cheeky look came over the baby orangutan's face, and he reached into the river again. He collected some water in his little hand, and then playfully sprinkled it on his mother's arm. She laughed and gently tickled her son on his tummy. Samuel could have stayed watching the beautiful orangutans forever, but the mother became aware of him and looked his way. Samuel expected her to pick up her baby and move back into the trees, but she didn't. To his amazement, the mother picked up her baby, placed him on her back, and then walked slowly over to him. So careful and slow were her steps that it looked like she didn't want to scare Samuel away. Samuel stayed as still as a statue. The beautiful orangutans moved closer. The baby peeped over his mother's shoulder, his brown eyes wide in wonder. Mother and baby stopped in front of Samuel. The lumberjack and the orangutan looked softly at each other. The orangutan's eyes were amber with flecks of orange in them. There was a gentle smile on her face. It was a knowing smile too, as though she had been waiting to meet him. Samuel smiled at her. She felt familiar somehow, as if she was an old friend or a family member. A warm feeling of recognition flowed through him, making him smile even more. The baby smiled too, and let out another delightful chuckle. He waved at Samuel. The lumberjack was completely lost in the magic of the moment and the enchanted situation he'd found himself in. And he wasn't at all surprised when the mother orangutan began to talk to him. "Good morning to you," she said. "Isn't it a beautiful day?" "It certainly is," Samuel said without any hesitation, as if talking to orangutans was something he did every day. The orangutan's smile grew bigger. "You don't seem surprised to hear me talking." Samuel shrugged. "Anything seems possible today. I feel like I'm in an enchanted forest." He stopped talking and looked closer into her lovely eyes. "Although, of course, I could be dreaming, and if I am, this is a wonderful dream." The baby said loudly, "I had a dream last night. It was great. I found 150 berries and I ate them all up. They were yummy." He grinned cheekily. "Oh, you can talk too," Samuel said to the baby. The mother laughed. "He never stops talking. Even when he's asleep, he talks. Sometimes he sings in his sleep." "I love singing," the baby declared. He opened his little mouth and began to sing something about tall trees and the flowing river. It was a beautiful song, and one Samuel had never heard before. The mother said it was the song of the rainforest, and all orangutans knew it. She looked over her shoulder and said softly, "Hush now, please, Ressie. Save your song for later." "Ressie? Is that your son's name?" Samuel asked. "It is. I'm Kira." Samuel gave his name. When little Ressie heard his name, he began to sing a song about Samuel and his green bag. When Ressie had finished his song, Samuel said, "Thank you, that was wonderful." He looked over Kira's shoulder and into the trees beyond, a small frown on his face. "Are you lost?" Kira asked. Samuel said he was and asked if she knew the way to the clearing at the entrance to the forest. Kira nodded and said, "Do you need to go there now?" "No, not yet. I want to know my way out when it's time for me to leave later on." He smiled. "I'm having a wonderful time wandering through the forest. I'm not ready to leave just yet." Kira asked if he'd like to spend the day with her and Ressie. She said he could meet the other orangutans too. "Really? Wow, that would be wonderful. Thank you," Samuel said. "This way," Kira said. "We'll be eating soon. You can share our food." "Thank you. Thank you so much." Samuel couldn't believe his good luck. His day was becoming more magical by the minute. Ressie leapt from his mother's back and landed gently on Samuel's chest. He wrapped his furry little arms around him and rested his head against Samuel's neck. The little orangutan was warm and smelled of forest leaves. Samuel had never held a baby of any kind before, but holding Ressie against his chest felt as natural as breathing. He put his hand gently on the baby's back. Kira picked up Samuel's green bag and set off through the forest. Samuel followed her, trying to keep his steps as smooth as he could, because Ressie was now asleep and snoring lightly in his ear. Through the lush green forest they went, the lumberjack and the orangutan. Nature's orchestra of forest sounds surrounded Samuel like a comforting blanket. The rainforest felt somehow familiar to him, like a beloved home he'd forgotten about. Kira leapt over a fallen branch that was covered in emerald green moss. Samuel carefully climbed over it, holding his hand against the back of the sleeping baby. They arrived at the place Kira called home, a small clearing set within the tall trees. A dozen or so orangutans were sitting in the shade of the trees. Some had sleeping babies on their laps. The resting orangutans raised their fur-covered arms in welcome towards Samuel, and again he had that wonderful feeling of meeting friends who he'd known for years. Kira sat under a tree and put Samuel's bag down. He sat next to her. There was a quiet hush in the rainforest, and not a word was spoken between the peaceful orangutans. The lumberjack felt like he was the luckiest person alive. He couldn't stop smiling. Ressie mumbled something about berries in his sleep. He let out a loud snore, and his eyes opened. "Who's snoring?" he asked. "It was you," his mother replied lovingly. "Are you ready for food?" It was a magic word, and it woke the rest of the babies. Their little eyes opened. They stretched and yawned before jumping out of their mother's arms and moving towards their friends. Ressie was still in Samuel's arms and asked the lumberjack if he'd like to help them find food. "It's easy," Ressie said. "I'll show you how to do it. And I'll let you use my stick too. It's a special stick, and I always find the juiciest berries with it." Ressie got out of Samuel's arms and ran towards a leafy bush. The little orangutan rummaged about inside it and pulled out a stick that was bent in the middle. He waved it at Samuel, who said it looked like a very special stick indeed. Ressie returned to Samuel's side and asked him to follow him. The little orangutan headed into the forest, expertly moving the stick through the bushes. Samuel walked after him and looked at the bushes too, not sure what he was looking for. The rest of the baby orangutans followed them. It felt a bit strange at first to be foraging for food in the rainforest in Borneo with young orangutans. But Samuel had a wonderful time and enjoyed himself very much. He was impressed with how easily hidden fruit was found, and astonished at how much fruit little orangutans could eat in one go. Ressi was happy to share his fruity feast with Samuel, and even squashed a juicy fig to make it easier for the lumberjack to eat. Ressi told him his mother used to do that when he was a bit younger. The fruit was delicious, even the squashed pieces. Samuel was soon full. They collected more fruit from the forest and carried it back to the mothers who were still resting beneath the trees. Ressi told Samuel he was going to play in the treetops with his friends and asked if he wanted to join them. Samuel looked upwards and saw a couple of young orangutans holding onto vines and swinging easily from tree to tree. Some were only using one hand. Samuel thought that even expert acrobats who had trained for years wouldn't move with such grace and beauty. Even though Samuel was good at climbing trees with the help of his lumberjack tools, he wasn't sure he was ready to swing on vines yet. He said no, thank you, to Ressi, and said he would wait at the bottom of the trees for him. Samuel joined the mothers. He gazed upwards and watched in wonder as the fluffy orange orangutans moved happily through the tall trees. He heard their joyful calls as they flew as effortlessly as birds through the thick treetops. A few leaves fluttered down and landed as softly as snow at Samuel's feet. He picked one up and put it in his bag to keep as a souvenir of this magical day. He leaned back against the warm tree trunk. His gaze softened as he looked around at the beautiful trees and bushes. The resting orangutans smiled at him with tenderness in their eyes. Love and appreciation filled the young lumberjack's heart. Kira moved closer to him, and they talked for a while about how beautiful the rainforest was. Kira asked Samuel why he was in the forest. He hesitated a moment before saying he was there to harvest trees. Kira smiled that gentle smile of hers. Humans often come here for that reason. When I was little, our forest reached all the way to Cloud Mountain. I remember one day when I wasn't much older than Ressi. I told my parents I would travel through the treetops until I reached Cloud Mountain, and I would do it without stopping. My parents thought I was too little to do that, and that my legs weren't strong enough for such a long journey, but I was determined to do it. I took it one tree at a time, and eventually I reached my goal. That sounds like it was an amazing journey. It was, Kira replied, the fond memory of her treetop journey in her eyes. Samuel, what will happen to the trees you take down? I'm not sure. I work for a large company and I don't know what they'll do with them. Maybe they'll be used to make houses. Kira nodded. Trees make wonderful homes. we build a nest every night in the trees. We make them out of leaves and branches. If you decide to stay here tonight, I'm sure Ressi will show you how to make your own nest." Samuel thanked her warmly and said he would love to stay the night. They didn't talk any more about his job, and instead they watched Ressi and his friends playing joyfully in their playground in the sky. Soon rain clouds moved across the sun. The little orangutans returned to their mothers, who pulled them closer and moved further under the shelter of the trees. A few drops of rain began to fall. Ressi gathered some leafy branches and held them out to Samuel, as though expecting him to know what to do with them. Samuel thought they were a gift and put them on his lap. Ressi giggled, took the branches back, and climbed onto Samuel's lap. He started to weave the branches together. Samuel soon realized he was making a leafy umbrella. Ressi gave the green umbrella to Samuel and told him to hold it above his head. Samuel did, and just in time too, because the rain began to fall heavier. Ressi settled his head on the lumberjack's chest. Samuel could feel the gentle beat of Ressi's heart. It was in perfect rhythm with his own heartbeat. The rain pitter-pattered on the surface of the leafy umbrella. The lumberjack and the orangutan stayed dry beneath it, cuddled cosily together like best friends. Just as suddenly as the rain had arrived, it abruptly stopped and the sun shone brightly again. Glistening raindrops lay like jewels on the tips of leaves. The little orangutans returned to their games in the treetops, and the mothers tended to other matters. Samuel helped the mothers where he could, but had to keep stopping now and again to take in the wonder of his day. He felt so at home in the rainforest, and the orangutans were becoming as lovingly familiar to him as his family. He noticed how the gentle smiles never left their faces, and the kindness in their eyes continued to shine brightly. The time flew by, and all too soon the sky began to darken. Ressi came down from the trees and returned to Samuel's side. He said, "It's nearly bedtime. Are you staying with us tonight?" "I am," Samuel replied. Ressi grinned happily and said, "You'll need a nest. I'll help you make one. I'm very good at making them. Come with me, and I'll help you find the strongest branches and the softest leaves." Samuel followed the little orangutan back into the surrounding trees, where they collected armfuls of fragrant branches and rain-washed leaves. They went back to join the others who were already building their nests in various trees. Ressi chose one of the smaller trees for Samuel to climb. The little orangutan went up first and placed the branches he'd collected in the nook of the tree trunk. Samuel took some of his tools from his bag and used them to climb the tree. Under the darkening sky, Ressi showed Samuel how to make a leafy nest that was strong and also very soft. The lumberjack found it easy to do, and a nest was soon made. The little orangutan made a smaller nest at the side of Samuel's and said he would sleep there. The lumberjack and the orangutan lay down on their soft green beds and gazed at the night sky. Ressi yawned and blinked his eyes tiredly. Samuel yawned too. The full moon was surrounded by thousands of twinkling stars. Samuel had never seen so many, and they seemed to be shining more brightly than ever before. Ressi stretched out his hand to Samuel. Samuel took the little hand in his and smiled at his new friend. Ressi began to sing a soft lullaby about the forest. The other orangutans joined in too. Samuel listened to their words as they sang about the tall trees, the flowing rivers, and the rising mountains, their beloved home in the rainforest. Right there and then, Samuel knew he didn't want to be a lumberjack anymore. He didn't want to take any trees from the beautiful forest. It was the orangutan's home, and he was going to do all he could to protect it. He would do his utter best to save each and every tree. He wasn't sure how or how long it would take, but he would do it. And just like Ressi's mother and her treetop journey to Cloud Mountain, he would do it one tree at a time until he reached his goal. The orangutan's song of the forest came to an end. Tired yawns came from all directions. Ressi smiled sleepily at Samuel and wished him good night. In a voice barely above a whisper, Samuel said, "Good night, little one. Sweet dreams." And in a beautiful rainforest in Borneo, the lumberjack and the orangutan held hands as they drifted into a deep, restful sleep. This is King Leo's Lazy Adventures by Karina Price. King Leo was a kind-hearted lion, and he loved looking after all his animals. But one day, he decided he wanted a day off from his royal duties. He really wanted to go on an adventure into the middle of the jungle where he could explore and have fun meeting new friends and doing lots of exciting and fun things. The only problem was, King Leo was feeling very sleepy. But this did not stop him. He decided that even though he was feeling so relaxed and lazy, he still wanted to go on an exciting adventure. Leo packed his bag with some very important things. He packed sweets, a big bottle of chocolate milkshake, and a compass and map so that he wouldn't get lost. Leo was especially excited about going into the centre of the jungle because there was something quite magical there. A treasure chest full of coins, magical gold coins, and Leo couldn't wait to find it. Before he set off, Leo held out his map to make sure he was heading in the right direction. He was entering a part of the jungle he'd never explored before, and he didn't want to get lost. Right, thought Leo. I need to find the napping tree first, and then the 10 dozing steps, as these will lead me to the magical gold coins. With this in mind, Leo set off into the jungle on his very exciting adventure. The sun was happily shining, and the lovely warm rays kissed his cheeks. As he walked along, Leo admired the beautiful plants such as the giant water lily, cacao trees, passion flowers, coffee plants and monkey brush vines. The trees and the plants made a rainbow of colour, blues, pinks, reds and greens. Leo could see birds flying in the sky chirping away, and butterflies fluttering amongst the delicious berries. He looked down at the ground and noticed a brightly coloured rocket frog. The frog was called Rocco, and when he saw Leo, he said, "Hey, what are you doing in this part of the jungle? I've never seen you here before." "I'm King Leo, and I'm going on an adventure today to find the treasure chest at the centre of the jungle. I'm trying to find the napping tree first, as this will help me to find the chest." "Well," said Rocco, "I know exactly where you're heading, but are you sure you want to go that way, as it's known to make animals feel very tired and sleepy?" "That's okay," said Leo. "I will try my best not to feel tired, and I will try really hard not to close my eyes if I feel sleepy." So Leo followed Rocco the frog as he led him to the napping tree. They soon arrived at the napping tree. Leo stood at the side of it and watched a magical golden mist gently rising above the ground. He felt like he was in a mystical dreamland, so peaceful and relaxing, and Leo felt so safe there. Leo noticed his eyes were starting to feel heavy. He was feeling really sleepy. So sleepy now, and it felt so nice. "Wait, I mustn't go to sleep," he muttered. "I must try very hard not to fall asleep now. I must try very hard not to fall asleep now. I need to find the dozing steps quickly before my eyes get too tired." Just then a spectacled owl flew down and said, "Hello, friend. You look like you are lost. Can I help?" "Yes, please," said Leo. "I really need to find the dozing steps before I get too tired. I'm going on an adventure to find the magical gold coins, and I don't want to fall asleep before I get there." The owl said, "Well, the best thing to do when you're feeling sleepy is to try not to close your eyes now. Try not to notice your eyes are getting heavier and heavier now. And try not to notice your body is feeling nice and relaxed now. And that will help you. Follow me and I will take you to the dozing steps. Leo lazily followed the spectacled owl, who was flying gracefully high in the sky, its beautiful wings gliding in a gentle breeze, swaying left and right, side to side. And as he flew high in the sky above King Leo's head, his wings started to release magical sleep dust. Lots of sparkling sleep dust drifted down onto Leo, making him feel ever so tired. "Here are the dozing steps, my friend," said the spectacled owl. "Good luck with your adventures. Oh, and look out for the lazy river. There are lots of lazy crocodiles living there." Leo looked down and saw 10 dozing steps in front of him, leading down into the deep jungle. All he needed to do was to take 10 steps down, and with every step down, he would get closer to the magical gold coins. Let's step down the napping steps with King Leo, taking the first step down now. 10. Feeling nice and relaxed. 9. Listening to the friendly sounds of the birds, feeling calm. 8. Deeper and deeper levels of relaxation, stepping down to 7. Your arms and legs feeling so relaxed. 6. Your eyes are starting to feel heavy now, so sleepy now. 5. 4. Nice and relaxed. That's right, stepping down to 3. Feeling so relaxed and safe now. 2. Safe and sound. 1. Cozy and relaxed. All the way down to 0. Leo sleepily arrived next to the lazy river, and as he curiously walked over to it, he noticed his eyes just seemed to feel more tired. He started to feel really heavy now, and he was trying his very best not to fall asleep, and he was trying so hard for his eyes not to close. He carried on walking, but he started to get slower and slower with every step he took. He finally reached the lazy river, but he couldn't see any lazy crocodiles. It just looked like a normal river to him. So he decided to take a seat next to the tree and rest his eyes for a moment or two. Leo fell asleep, but a moment later, a movement beneath him woke him up. What was going on? Oh dear, Leo had fallen asleep on top of a crocodile. He was too sleepy to move, and the crocodile slowly walked into the river, with Leo sitting on top of him. The crocodile waded into the water and began swimming down the lazy river. Leo wondered how he was going to get off the crocodile. He noticed a floating log nearby and jumped onto it. Phew, he thought. That was a lucky escape. After all that excitement, he decided to close his eyes, relax, and gently float down the river, nice and easy. Leo's eyes started to feel heavy and heavier, and he slowly began to fall asleep. Little did he know that he was heading towards a great big waterfall. What was he going to do? Luckily, there were some monkeys up in the trees eating delicious bananas, and they could see Leo floating down the river on his log towards the waterfall. So the monkeys reached down and grabbed Leo. They pulled him high into the trees just in time. As they did so, Leo woke up and asked the monkeys what he was doing up in the trees. One of the monkeys said they had saved him from going over the edge of the waterfall. Leo thanked them for rescuing him. He told them about his adventure and how he was looking for the treasure chest with the magical gold coins inside it. The monkey said if he was travelling through the jungle on an adventure, would he have time to join their party? They would love him to be there. It was going to be great fun, and there would be chocolate cake, sweets, party games, face painting, the lot. Leo smiled and said it sounded amazing, and yes please, he would love to go to their party. When the monkeys and the lion arrived at the party, there was fun music playing in the background. The orangutans were beating the drums, and the other animals were dancing and laughing and having lots of fun. Some were doing silly face paints on each other's faces. Others were playing pass the parcel and telling funny jokes. One of the monkeys said, "It's time for the birthday cake. It's taken us 3 days to make this yummy masterpiece. It's as tall as a mountain and has every single sweet you can think of on it. Marshmallows, lollipops, chocolate buttons, candy canes, and candy floss." Leo could not wait to have a piece of the delicious cake. Everyone stood around the cake and started to sing happy birthday to one of the little monkeys. But as everyone was singing, Leo started to feel very sleepy. His eyes felt heavy and heavier, and he was trying his best to keep them open. He really didn't want to fall asleep now, and he tried not to focus on feeling relaxed, because he didn't want to miss out on a delicious piece of cake. But, oh no, Leo couldn't stop himself from falling asleep. He fell into a deep sleep and accidentally fell face first into the birthday cake, right into the middle of it. The monkeys looked at the cake in dismay. Leo quickly woke up and apologized. He just hadn't been able to stop himself from falling asleep. He said sorry again and offered to help with the party. He asked if there was anything that needed doing. The monkeys said he could help them with the balloons, as they needed air putting into them. Leo went over to the balloon-making machine, and one by one, he started to fill the balloons with air. There were red balloons, blue, green and multicoloured balloons. Some balloons were big and round, and others were long and oblong. Leo was proud of himself and knew the monkeys would love the bright colourful balloons. But as he continued getting the balloons ready, the soothing sound of the air began to make him feel tired. The sound of the air filling the balloons was just so relaxing. Listening to the balloons getting bigger and bigger, listening to them getting longer and longer, Leo noticed that he started to feel so lazy. Leo thought he needed to take a break, but he had promised the monkeys he would help them, so he carried on. He started to feel so sleepy and tired now, and he just wanted to rest his head on the soft grass. All he could think about was resting his head on the lovely leaves and feeling cozy and warm. He wondered what it would be like if he just took a little 5-minute nap. And as he started to wonder what it would be like, he gently closed his eyes and fell asleep again. But guess what? The balloon-making machine was still going, and some of the balloons were attached to Leo's leg. They started to get tangled around his leg more and more. As more and more balloons started to fill with air, they started to float up into the sky, with Leo attached to them. Leo was asleep as he floated higher and higher and higher into the sky, up and up. The monkeys saw Leo, but they couldn't reach him because he was too high. Leo ended up in the clouds. When he woke up, he was on a big fluffy cloud. It felt like he was on a cloud of candy floss. He wondered how he had ended up on the clouds, but as he sat on the soft, fluffy cloud, he realized it was quite nice and relaxing. He looked around. To his amazement, all the clouds in the sky started to change colours. Some of the clouds were pink, some were yellow, blue, purple and red. Leo wondered what it would be like to step onto each of the coloured clouds. Then he wondered how he was going to get down from the clouds, because he had an adventure he needed to go on. At that moment, he saw a colourful toucan flying in the sky. The toucan noticed Leo's situation and told him to look over at the blue cloud because there was a rainbow near it. Leo could hop onto the rainbow and slide all the way down back to the jungle. The bird said it would be a lot of fun. So Leo did just that. He hopped onto the rainbow and slid all the way down. But oh dear, he didn't land on the soft jungle grass. Instead, Leo landed in a slippery lagoon. Every single time Leo tried to get out of the lagoon, he slid back in again. And not only that, but the gooey slime was also making all sorts of funny squelching noises. Leo thought he was never going to get out of the slippery lagoon. But then he noticed some bubbles popping on the surface of the water. And more bubbles started to appear. His friend, Rocco the frog, hopped out from behind the bubbles and said, "Hey Leo, what are you doing here?" Leo said, I slid down a rainbow and ended up here. And now I can't seem to get out. Every single time I try, I slide back again." Rocco said he knew how to get Leo out of the lagoon, and told him that Petra the python could help him. She was a very friendly python, and often helped others when they were stuck somewhere. Rocco called out for his friend Petra. A moment later, the beautiful snake slithered slowly towards Leo. She extended her long silvery tail towards him and gently wrapped it around his belly and pulled him along very slowly and carefully out of the lagoon. Leo thanked the kind snake for helping him. He said, "Sometimes I just feel so sleepy, so relaxed, and it's just so easy to close my eyes and fall into a dreamy, peaceful sleep." Petra told him that the next time he feels so sleepy, he should do what she does and think about all the fun things she'll be doing tomorrow, and that stops her from falling asleep. Leo said that was a great idea, and he would try that when he next felt sleepy. Leo continued on his adventure and walked along a grassy path. He found a comfy rock to sit on. He decided to follow Petra's advice and used his imagination to think of all the fun things he was going to do tomorrow to stop himself from feeling so sleepy. As Leo thought about those fun things, he gently closed his eyes and started to fall asleep. When Leo was asleep, it started to rain. Lovely, warm, tropical rain. But the rain created a big mudslide, and a large amount of wet dirt flowed down the hill towards Leo and carried him along. When the mudslide stopped, Leo woke up in a daze. Confused and covered in mud, Leo decided to walk over to a nearby stream to wash himself off. As he did so, he felt vibrations underneath him. The ground shook, and when Leo turned around, he was greeted by a herd of elephants who were on their way to a stream. The elephants recognized the king and asked why he was there. Leo told them about his journey to find the treasure chest that was full of golden coins, and how he kept falling asleep on the way. He asked the elephants if they could help him reach the treasure chest. One of the elephants said they could help and they would take him to Bongo's house. When Leo asked who Bongo was, the elephant said he was really good at making trampolines, and if Leo jumped on one when he was tired, it would definitely keep him awake. Leo thought that was an excellent idea. He climbed onto the elephant's back and was taken over to Bongo's house. When they arrived, Leo slid all the way down the elephant's trunk and lazily dawdled over to Bongo's house. Bongo was making a super bouncy trampoline out of bamboo. Leo asked if he could bounce on the trampoline to wake him up a bit, as he was feeling so tired and relaxed, and he wanted to do something to stop him from going to sleep. Bongo said of course he could, but warned, "Whatever you do, don't bounce on the stripy one over there, as it will make you bounce higher than you ever thought possible." Leo said he would stay away from the stripy one. He hopped onto the trampoline and started to bounce, higher and higher, and felt like he was flying. Leo wondered if he would feel less sleepy if he tried out the stripy super trampoline. And when Bongo wasn't looking, he hopped onto it. He loved bouncing higher and higher. But then he did the biggest bounce ever, and he bounced up into the air, through the clouds, up into space. He went past the moon and saw the magical stars. He slowly floated all the way back and landed in the middle of the jungle, exactly where he was heading in the first place. Phew! Leo finally reached the magical treasure chest. As he slowly opened it, a dazzling glow beamed out. He picked up several coins, and to his amazement, they were chocolate coins. He said, "Oh my goodness, this is my biggest dream. I've always dreamt of eating lots of chocolate coins." Leo started to eat the delicious coins, one by one. They were utterly delicious. With every coin he ate, another one magically appeared in the treasure chest. Leo couldn't wait to return to his cozy cave with the rest of the magical gold coins. He decided to take the chest back to his home so he could share the delicious golden coins with his animals. He knew they liked chocolate as much as he did, and the thought of their happy faces made Leo feel warm and happy inside. He pushed the treasure chest in the direction of his cozy cave, and the night sky gently appeared, twinkling stars guiding him home. But with every step he took, he started to feel so tired and sleepy now. His eyes started to feel heavier and heavier with every step that he took. He was feeling so deeply relaxed now. "I'm just going to close my eyes for a moment or two. I'm not going to go to sleep now." Feeling so sleepy now, he closed his tired eyes and let out a long, long, happy sigh. Falling asleep, lying peacefully under the twinkling stars and the happy moon. The next day, Leo woke up in his cozy cave. "How did I get back home? And where are my magical coins?" he said. His friend, Emu, said, "King Leo, you have been in your cozy cave, fast asleep all night. You must have had a lovely dream." Leo said it was the best dream he'd ever had. He snuggled back into his bed and smiled as he thought about his wonderful dream, feeling nice and cozy, safe and sound. This is Camo the Chameleon's Carnival of Colour by Luke Prendergast. Camo the Chameleon had the most extraordinary ability, which he often thought of as his own superpower. He could change his skin to be any colour imaginable. He could be orange as a setting sun, or green as grass. He could turn his skin banana yellow, or make himself a bright gold and covered with glittering silver sparkles. But you know what his absolute favourite colour to be was? Yep, that's right, you've got it. He liked to be every colour all at once. Stripes of red, blue, pink, green and yellow covering his entire body, so that he looked like a brilliant reptilian rainbow. There was a time, not so long ago, that Camo had felt a teensy bit ashamed of his brightly coloured skin. He'd been afraid that it was all a bit too garish, a bit too loud. He thought it best not to draw too much attention to himself, and so he'd avoided letting his skin be his favourite rainbow colour. Instead, he'd chosen to be quieter, more muted tones, like greys and dark greens. But when he had dimmed his colours like that, all of Camo's friends and family had told him that he should never be ashamed to be exactly who he wanted to be. They'd gone out of their way to make him feel very safe and loved. And so now Camo walked around proudly with his rainbow skin, the skin he felt most comfortable in, the skin he called his home. In fact, his friends celebrated Camo's Technicolor superpower so much that often they would beg him to put on a dazzling show during playtime at Sleepy Forest Elementary School. Camo would stand in the middle of the playground, changing from electric blue to pale lavender, from sea green to black and white stripes, just like a zebra. His friends would stand there applauding and hooting and calling out, "How about red and green spots, Camo?" Or, "Try turning the same colour as Coco's ukulele." And when the head teacher, who was a wise old owl, flew off her perch, ringing her bell and telling everyone that it was time to return to lessons, all Camo's friends would give him a final hurrah and say they couldn't wait for his next display. But one morning, after he'd put on a particularly fabulous show and had now returned to his favourite rainbow colours, Camo noticed that his good pal Prickles the hedgehog wasn't smiling. He was frowning. It was clear to Camo that something was up. So Camo sidled up to him and said, "Hey, Prickles, is something up? Did you not like the show?" "Oh, no," Prickles said, flashing Camo a quick smile. "I loved your show. I always do. It was swell." Camo asked, "Then what's wrong?" "It's okay, Prickles. I'm your friend. You can tell me anything. Let's find a way to turn that frown upside down." "It's just," Prickles said before looking over his shoulder at where the rows of prickly spines growing down his back rippled in the breeze. Then he fell silent. "What is it?" Camo asked gently. He put his arm around Prickles' shoulder, careful not to get spiked by any of his spines. "It's just, sometimes I wish that I could be rainbow-coloured, just like you," Prickles said. "Or at least some colour more exciting than I am. My spines are just this dull, greyish brown. Nothing special about that." "That's not true, Prickles," Camo said. There's nothing dull about you at all." Prickles said, "Well, it's certainly not special like you." Then he gave a sigh and went inside. As he watched Prickles go, a peculiar feeling took hold of Camo. It was as though a little hand had closed around his tummy. The feeling was one of realization, but not an entirely happy one. Camo had never, not for one moment, thought of Prickles' spines, which were lustrous and shiny, as dull. He had never thought of the fur that grew around his cheeks as greyish-brown. If he had to describe it, he'd call it tawny with flecks of copper and fire red. But it was clear that Prickles did think so little of himself. And what was worse, it seemed that seeing Camo's technicolored chameleon skin only made Prickles feel worse by comparison. That left Camo feeling a little bit guilty. Maybe, he thought to himself, he should dim his colours a bit. Not for fear of being too brash and showy, but because it might make others feel bad. Camo carried this not altogether cheery thought around with him for the rest of the day, and with it, he began to notice something about all his friends that he hadn't noticed before. Just like Prickles didn't seem to appreciate the beauty of his spines, and instead wished he was different to the way he was, so his other friends didn't appreciate their own amazing qualities. For example, during art class, Camo's friend Feathers, the blackbird, tossed down her paintbrush in a huff. "Oh, I wish I were better at painting," she groaned. "I don't have any talents at all." Camo found this an odd and surprising thing for Feathers to say indeed, because she had the best singing voice of anyone he had ever met in Sleepy Forest. If you caught a note of her warbling from up in the treetops, it transported you to a world of dreams right away. She was certainly talented, and yet she didn't seem to be proud of her singing at all. Later, Camo heard Twigger the giraffe wishing his neck wasn't so long as it was, and hunching to try to hide it. Then Millicent the millipede complaining that she thought she had far too many feet. Slowly, it dawned on Camo that all his pals in Sleepy Forest were suffering from the same thing that he had once suffered from too. They were afraid to let their true colours shine. None of them were proud of their talents, of their brilliance, of the qualities that made them, that made them them. Instead, they were all wishing they were different somehow, something other from what they were. That made Camo feel sad, because he loved all his friends for who they were, and he wished that they would too. That was when he decided something had to be done about it. When school finished, and they were all released to make their way home through Sleepy Forest, Camo ran up to one of his best friends, Coco, and stopped him in the playground. "Hey, Coco," he said to the little koala. "Do you have a minute or two? I need to speak to you about something." Camo told Coco about what he'd noticed that day, about how it seemed some of the other kids at their school had forgotten to be proud of who they were. That instead, they were wishing they were someone else completely. Coco blinked at him a few times, thinking this through. Then he gave a sigh. "Now I think about it, Camo," he said, "I think you might be right. Sometimes people forget how magic they really are. So, they need reminding. They need to take some time to appreciate themselves and show everyone they're proud of who they are. But what are we meant to do about it? Well, said Camo, giving his pal Coco a little smile, I have an idea about what we can do about it, and I think I could use your help to put it into action. And so, Camo told Coco about the idea he had come up with. What he wanted to do was to put on a huge parade that would start at Sleepy Forest Elementary School and then wend its way through the forest. And the parade would be full of colour, and everyone would be invited to march and celebrate themselves. If they had talents, they could perform them, and they could show off their truest colours, whatever those true colours might be. It would be a big celebration of each and every one of us, Camo concluded. And I've got a name for it too. The Carnival of Colour. The Carnival of Colour? Coco repeated the name dreamily. Then he nodded his head. I love it, Camo. What a brilliant idea. And I know just the person who can help us out with it. Miss Bushytail, who heads the cheerleading squad. She knows a thing or two about pom-poms and celebrations and putting on a show. I just bet she'll be able to help us out. Thanks, Coco, Camo said. I knew you'd be the right person to ask. The next day, at lunchtime, Camo and Coco went to speak to Miss Bushytail about their plan for the Carnival of Colour. She thought it was just a splendid idea and said that she would help them in whichever way she could. She would organise costumes and pom-poms for whoever wanted them, and would oversee the running of the parade itself. I'll stay on top of all of that boring organisational stuff, she said with a shake of her fluffy tail, and leave the exciting stuff to you two. The date was set, and over the following days, Camo and Coco spread the word about the Carnival of Colour. Everyone seemed very excited indeed, and they had lots of questions. What were they meant to wear? And what were they meant to do? Well, that's just the point, Camo told them. It's entirely up to you. You wear and do whatever makes you feel most like you. After that, there was chitter-chatter all across Sleepy Forest about what costumes people might wear or what amazing talents they might show off. Even certain creatures who weren't so sure of themselves before became excited about celebrating who they were. Twigger the giraffe, for instance, trotted up to Camo one afternoon in the playground to tell him, full of excitement, that he planned to display how he could pluck the leaves from the highest branches of the trees, thanks to his long neck. And when Feathers the blackbird was fretting that she didn't have any talent she could try out at the Carnival of Colour, Camo told her that in fact she did. She had the most beautiful singing voice in all the forest. Do I really? Feathers asked, looking at him skeptically. You certainly do, Camo told her. Everybody says so. A little smile crept onto Feathers' face when he said this. Well then, she said, I should probably choose a song and get practicing quick. and even Prickles said that he had an idea for the Carnival of Colour, though he wouldn't tell Camo what it was. "It's a secret," he said, smiling shiftily. "You'll see." Days passed in a flurry and fluster of planning. Miss Bushytail sewed dozens of sequined and glittery outfits and stitched together many multicoloured pom-poms. Camo planned the best route to take, and Coco asked the birds to deliver a message from branch to branch, letting the residents of Sleepy Forest know that they should come out to watch the parade. Until finally, the big day arrived. "How are you feeling?" Miss Bushytail asked Camo by the entrance of Sleepy Forest Elementary School, as they waited for everyone to arrive for the Carnival of Colour. "A little bit nervous," Camo admitted, "but mostly excited. I just can't wait to see everyone showing off their truest, grooviest colours. I just hope that people actually turn up." Camo, of course, had nothing to worry about. First one forest creature, then two, then dozens more arrived, and they looked fabulous. They were all dressed in spangly displays of colour, sequined skirts and glittery shirts, and pom-poms of every colour you can imagine. They gathered in large, excited groups, waiting for the parade to begin. Some of them even gave early demonstrations of their favourite talents. Coco's little sister Kira did her best backflips across the playground, and Feathers, the blackbird, sang a few lines of her favourite tune. Soon enough, Miss Bushytail announced that the parade would be starting in 5 minutes, so that everyone should line up ready. Camo watched, his heart filled with pride and joy as the parade collected. He was so happy to see all his friends ready to celebrate themselves. Coco and Kira, Twiga and Feathers, even Wait a second. Where was Prickles? Camo looked around, but he couldn't see him anywhere. He started asking if anyone had seen him. Finally, he reached Coco. "Hey, Coco," he said. "Have you seen Prickles anywhere?" But Coco the koala just shook his head. "Isn't he here then?" he asked. "Wait there," Camo told him. "I have to find him before the carnival kicks off. I'll try to be quick." And with that, Camo dashed into Sleepy Forest, calling out Prickles' name. Camo searched in all the usual spots he thought he'd be. In a tree house where they liked to hang out, down at the hedgerow where Prickles lived with his family. Camo ran this way and that, but try as he might, he couldn't find Prickles. He was almost ready to give up when he heard a sniffling sound coming from a leafy bush. He peeked inside, and there he was. Prickles was hiding in the bush. "What are you doing in there?" Camo asked him. "Come out." When Prickles emerged from the bush, Camo was taken rather by surprise. Prickles wasn't his usual lustrous brown colour. Instead, his whole body was covered in splashy, multicoloured stripes of paint, clinging thickly to each of his spines. "Why, Prickles," Camo said, "you've painted yourself in all the colours of the rainbow. Was that your secret idea?" Prickles nodded. "Yes," he whispered solemnly. it was. And yet, Camo could tell that Prickles didn't seem very happy about it. "But Prickles," he said, "what's the matter?" "Well," said Prickles, glancing uneasily from side to side, "this was my big idea, to be rainbow-coloured, just like you, Camo. And I felt pretty happy with it at first. But when I left home and began to walk towards the Carnival of Colour, a cold feeling began to steal over me, and I realised what it was. It's that in painting myself rainbow-coloured, I wasn't being me. It was more like I was trying not to be me. And that, quite frankly, didn't feel so good. But the problem was, I'd already painted myself, and I didn't know what to do. I had no way to get it off, so I just hid in this bush. And, well, that's where you found me, hiding here in the bush." Camo looked at his pal, Prickles, for a few moments, waves of many feelings washing through him. Happiness and sympathy, a little sadness, but mostly buckets and buckets of love. Then he threw his arms around Prickles, even enduring a couple of sharp spikes from his spines. "Oh, Prickles," Camo said, "that's just what the Carnival of Colour is all about. It's about being proud of being exactly who you are. I'm glad you can see that now. And don't worry, I have an idea about all this paint. Follow me." Saying no more, Camo led Prickles down through the forest, in between the broad tree trunks, until they reached the edge of the sleepy river. "Quick," Camo said, "dunk yourself." Prickles did just as Camo directed. He took a run at the sleepy river and plunged himself into the cool water. Camo watched from the bank as the paint was rinsed from Prickles' body and disappeared into the water. When Prickles clambered out of the river, he was back to normal. "How does that feel?" Camo asked him. Prickles looked back at his spines, their red-brown lengths covered in crystal droplets of water, all sparkling in the shimmering sun. "It feels," he said, "it feels just like I'm wearing my colours, my very own true colours." Camo and Prickles exchanged a big hug, then agreed that they had to get to the parade. They hurried through the forest and reached the Carnival of Colour just as Miss Bushytail blew a loud whistle, signalling that the parade had begun. "Camo, Prickles, up here!" Coco's voice rang out over the parade, and Camo and Prickles went and joined him right at the front. Coco was holding his ukulele and strumming it to his heart's content. And then, all together, they paraded through Sleepy Forest. What a spectacle of colour it was. Everywhere they went, forest creatures came to applaud and cheer them on. Coco played his ukulele. Feathers sang her song. Twiga plucked leaves from the tallest trees. Kira somersaulted up and down the parade, and all the other Sleepy Forest kids performed their great talents. Trumpets were blown, and fiddles were plucked. Dancers performed pirouettes, and the sports team threw balls high into the air and caught them. A few students even performed some magic tricks as they marched. making each other apparently disappear before making them reappear again. And up at the front, Camo the chameleon strode proudly along with his best friend Prickles. Camo's skin shining with all the colours of the rainbow, and Prickles' spines their glorious red-brown colour, like a sunset captured and bottled. Two pearly white grins plastering their faces, chanting as they marched. It was generally agreed by all of the residents of Sleepy Forest that the Carnival of Colour was one of the most wondrous and uplifting celebrations in all of forest history. Just watching all of the students at Sleepy Forest Elementary School parading through the forest filled the other creatures with joy and self-confidence. It was important, they all agreed, to appreciate yourself, just as much as it was important to appreciate others. You can't love others before you love yourself, they joked to each other, nodding. You have to celebrate just what it is that makes you, you. And Camo the chameleon, when he heard such comments being passed mouth to mouth and wing to wing through Sleepy Forest, just knew his plan had worked. Everywhere he looked, there were smiles on people's faces. All the foresters, he could tell, loved themselves just that bit more. And, as a consequence, he could also tell they also loved each other a bit more too. After the parade, they packed the pom-poms away in boxes, took off their costumes, and took down the arch of biodegradable balloons and banners that had marked the starting line of the Carnival of Colour. Everyone was pretty sleepy now. As they put the final boxes back in storage, yawns were breaking out, and people were stretching their tired limbs and talking about just how much they were looking forward to a delicious dinner and a warm and cosy night's sleep. Camo said thank you to Miss Bushytail for all her help and gave her a big hug. Then he met Coco and Prickles outside Sleepy Forest Elementary School, and they made their way home arm in arm through the darkening forest. Happiness hung in the twilight like a warm pulse, bearing the friends home. "What an awesome parade," Coco said to Camo. "You really pulled it off." "Yes," Prickles agreed. "What a carnival it was. A true carnival of colour." Camo the chameleon smiled at his two friends. "Thanks, guys," he said. "But, you know, just because the Carnival of Colour is over, it doesn't mean that you stop loving yourself or being proud of your true colours. The Carnival isn't just for one day. The Carnival is for life." "Oh, I know," said Prickles merrily. He looked back over his shoulder at his spines, which tonight, he thought, shone like gold. "I'm going to be proud of my true colours forever." And with that, the three friends walked home through the gentle night. This is Slow-Mo the Soccer Sloth by Alicia Ainsley. Deep in Sleepy Forest, relaxing at the top of the leafy trees, lived a peaceful, sweet animal called Mo. Mo led a simple, quiet life, eating, sleeping and hanging from the branches with his strong, long arms. For, you see, Mo was a sloth, and sloths don't tend to do much else. Have you seen a sloth before? Well, Mo had a fuzzy white face with a friendly smile permanently plastered on it. He had a brown, furry body and 4 extremely long arms and legs, perfect for hugging the trees with. Ever since Mo was a young child, he was different from the other animals. As Mo's arms and legs grew longer and his eyebrows bushier, he watched as his fellow animals grew up too, into bigger, faster animals. However, no matter how hard he tried to keep up with the others, Mo couldn't help but find that he was different to the rest. While the tigers' tails became lengthier, their stripes more pronounced, and their feet able to run quicker and quicker, Mo continued to move at the same unhurried pace. While the kangaroo's feet became clumpier and their hops progressed higher and higher, Mo remained just as easygoing as he had ever been. While the other animals chased one another around the sleepy forest playground, Mo could barely keep up with the snails. Mo was very slow. In fact, everything he did was very slow. When Mo spoke in his low, breathy voice, he talked at such a gentle pace that it could take him minutes just to utter a single sentence. And Mo moved just as slowly as he spoke. He moved his body so sluggishly that it appeared as though he was moving in slow motion. This is why everyone in Sleepy Forest affectionately nicknamed him Slow Mo. Sloths are known for being the slowest, laziest animals in the whole world. But Mo was different. Mo had bigger dreams than the average sloth. From his prime position up in the tall trees, Mo could see most things happening in Sleepy Forest. His favourite thing to watch from his resting place in the trees was the Sleepy Forest Soccer League. Every year, the forest's most agile, sprightly, soccer-loving animals came together to try out for the Sleepy Forest soccer team, led by the infamous coach, Chase the cheetah. Every animal was welcome to try out for the team, and Coach Chase would put the contenders through their paces with activities and tests to see who was best for that year's team. Mo loved watching the other animals play soccer, and he never missed a match. He always had the best seat in the house from his prized position up in the trees. But this year, Mo was tired of watching and dreaming from afar. This year, Mo wanted to try out for the soccer team himself. The night before soccer tryouts, Mo put on his favourite purple sweatband and his soccer jersey and set off early to ensure he arrived on time. But even though he had set off the night before tryouts, he still was a little bit late to the soccer pitch the next day, on account of all the naps he had to take along the way. But nevertheless, Mo had arrived and he was raring to go for soccer tryouts. Well, as raring as possible for an animal as chilled out as a sloth. Mo joined the line of animals queuing to add their names to the tryouts list and waited patiently for his turn. When he made it to the front, he laboriously wrote his name on the list and felt his fuzzy tummy bubble with excitement. He was ecstatic to finally have his chance to try out for the soccer team. Once his name was on the list, Mo made his way over to the other animals who were stretching their muscles and warming up, ready to begin. A majestic ostrich wearing white sneakers noticed Mo approaching and trotted towards him with recognition. Mo recognized the ostrich immediately too. "Good morning, Ozzy." Mo greeted the tall ostrich in his slow drawl. Mo had known Ozzy the ostrich since they were small children. Ozzy the ostrich wrapped his fluffy giant wing around Mo in greeting and said, "Slow Mo, what are you doing here?" Mo informed him that he was trying out for the soccer team. Ozzy blinked 3 times as he processed what Mo had said, and then a confused expression spread across his beaked face. Ozzy replied with concern, "But aren't you going to find it a bit hard to keep up? After all, you can only move slowly. That's why we all call you Slow Mo." Mo smiled and shrugged his shoulders as gracefully as if he were moving through water. He told his friend not to worry about him. He was going to give it his best shot anyway. He was just happy to be there. All of a sudden, everyone else around them snapped to attention, and their chatter died down. Ozzy and Mo looked to see what was going on. Mo turned to see his hero, Coach Chase the cheetah, striding towards the group of recruits. Coach Chase wore a striped purple and white t-shirt with a matching cap on his head and a whistle dangled on a string around his neck. He carried a clipboard tucked under his left armpit and held a timer in his right hand. The crowd of animals fell silent with anticipation as he approached, and Mo craned his neck to get a better look at his idol. Coach Chase surveyed the crowd of animals with keen eyes. As he spoke to the Sleepy Forest animals who had turned up for tryouts, he radiated an air of importance. Everybody wanted to impress Coach Chase. Coach Chase welcomed everybody to the soccer tryouts with his deep, commanding voice and thanked them all for taking time out of their day to come along. He declared that the tests would be tough and would require great stamina and skill to complete. There would be several rounds of activities to get through before Coach Chase would make his decision on who had made it onto the soccer team. But the cheetah claimed that above all else, he would be looking for who the best team players were. Every member of his soccer squad needed to work together to be a successful team. As Mo listened to Coach Chase's speech, he felt even more motivated to impress him. He wanted Coach Chase to pick him for his soccer team more than anything else in the world. When his speech was through, Coach Chase handed the clipboard of names to his monkey assistant called Bennett and ushered everyone to get into a long, straight line. All the animals hustled and bustled to create a line for Coach Chase, but Mo stayed put, right where he was, and he naturally fell into place as the other animals formed a line on either side of him. Coach Chase's assistant, Bennett, started to place little orange cones on the grass, creating several long lines beginning at the animals trying out for the team, all the way to the centre point on the soccer pitch. As Bennett laid out the obstacle course, Coach Chase explained that he wanted to see who had the fastest feet in the forest. Every animal had to take turns, tiptoeing as fast as they could, in and out of the orange cones to reach the other end. It would not only be a test of their speed, but also a test of their agility. 3 at a time, the animals took turns racing around the orange cones, as fast and skillfully as they could, to reach the other side. The rattlesnake expertly weaved around each and every cone, and the penguin surprised everyone with the speed of his flappy feet. Surprisingly, the wildebeest, who was well known for their impressive speed, struggled to maneuver the tight corners around the orange cones and tripped and knocked over several as they ran. Meanwhile, as expected, the likes of Ozzy the ostrich, the kangaroo Mo had come to learn was called Kylie, and the gazelle successfully whizzed their way in and out of the cones to reach the other side. Bennett the monkey made notes on the clipboard as each animal tackled the task, while Coach Chase watched every animal try out. After everyone had taken their turn setting off from the start line, Bennett the monkey looked up from his clipboard, expecting everyone to be finished, but paused with surprise as his eyes fell on what everyone else was staring at. While every other animal had made it to the other side, successfully or not, Slow Mo was still working his way across the pitch. Despite his exceedingly slow speed, Mo was going as fast as he could. He crept his way around every orange cone without knocking a single one over. He may not have been the quickest, but he was performing the task with the most care. Coach Chase and all the other animals watched on with a mixture of humour and impatience. By the time Mo made it to the other end, everyone else had been finished for at least a good 5 minutes. Mo stopped at the finish line and panted with exhaustion. He had never moved so fast in his life. His friend Ozzy the ostrich patted him on the back and congratulated him on persevering. Kylie the kangaroo hopped over to Mo and giggled. "You certainly live up to your nickname, Slow Mo." Mo smiled sleepily and wearily wiped his brow. He could use a nap right about now. He had never travelled so far so quickly before. But there was no time to rest. The soccer tryouts had only just begun. Coach Chase led everyone to the next test. He wanted to see how well they dribbled the ball and passed to one another. Coach Chase split everyone up into teams of 4, and Bennett the monkey handed out a ball to each group. Mo was put in a group with his friend, Ozzy the ostrich, a lemur named Lionel, whom he hadn't met before, and a beautiful gazelle named Gigi. They took turns dribbling the ball with their feet and passing it to one another with a light kick. Ozzy was a pro. He was excellent at dribbling the ball with his feet, and his passes were perfect. Lionel the lemur did all right, but the ball was almost as big as him, so he struggled to kick it very far with his dainty feet. Gigi Gazelle did well keeping the ball between her 4 long legs as she moved, but whenever she tried to kick the ball, it bounced off one of the other of her 4 legs and rarely made it to its target. Every animal, all around, seemed to have their strong points and their weaknesses, no matter how big or small they were, no matter how fast or steady they were. When it came to Mo's turn to dribble the ball, it was quite a sight to see. It took him 5 slow counts to pull his leg back to prepare for the kick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then it took him 5 more slow counts to propel his leg forwards to strike the ball. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. By the time his leg had completed the full motion, there was simply no speed or power in his kick to move the ball forward very far. In fact, the ball hardly rolled an inch. Mo's teammates, Ozzy, Lionel the lemur, and Gigi Gazelle, waited patiently while Mo took several slow minutes to dribble the ball a few paces. Finally, as he went to pass the ball to Ozzy, he tried with all his might to kick it to his friend, but the ball hardly made it halfway and stopped still in between the two of them. Mo sighed and noticed Coach Chase watching their group intently. His assistant, Bennett, struck a name off the list on his clipboard, and Mo's shoulders sagged. Maybe that was his name, taken off the list. Finally, Coach Chase announced that the last test of the day would be a penalty shootout. Every animal would have a go at kicking the ball into the net and take turns defending the goal too. Mo knew it was important to get a strike in the penalty shootout if he wanted any chance of being on the soccer team. One by one, the animals lined up to take their shot. Mo watched in awe as a lioness stepped up and hit a clean, powerful strike into the net. Half of the animals, including Mo, applauded her success, while half of them sulked with jealousy. Next up, Gigi Gazelle took her turn and finally managed to kick the ball straight without getting her legs all tangled up. The ball hit the back of the net with ease, and Mo cheered for her good fortune. The animals kept on going. Some succeeded in getting a strike and some missed the goal. Ozzy the ostrich had a stroke of bad luck and kicked the ball too high. The ball flew over the top of the net, and Ozzy bowed his head in disappointment. Mo offered his friend a slow pat on the back and tried to reassure him that he had done well all day. So just because he had missed the goal this time didn't mean he was out of the running for the team. Ozzy appreciated his friend's kind words. Kylie the kangaroo hopped forward with swagger, and using her big feet, she flipped the ball up into the air and headbutted the ball into the net. It was a dazzling goal, and Coach Chase looked very impressed as he watched on. Eventually, it was Mo's turn. Mo plodded up to the penalty mark, and Bennett the monkey placed the ball at his feet. Mo took a deep breath and gazed at the goal. He steadily lined up his foot with the ball and began his slow procedure to kick it. He bent his leg backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and swung it forwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He attempted to kick the ball with as much force as possible, but due to his lack of speed, he practically tapped it. The ball rolled forward a few centimeters and stopped in its tracks. Mo felt a little embarrassed and looked back at the other animals watching, expecting them to laugh. However, to his surprise, they clapped for him and smiled with encouragement. He even heard Kylie the kangaroo say, "Good effort, Slow-Mo." Mo may not have got the strike he wanted, but he had done his best, and that was all he could ask for. The remaining animals stepped up to take their shots, and when it was Lionel the lemur's go, Mo took his turn defending the goal. Mo smiled at his new friend across the pitch and gave him a little thumbs up. He hoped that Lionel would do well. Mo watched Lionel back up, run on the spot to build up momentum, and then rush forwards at the ball with an energetic kick. The ball flew through the air directly at the goal. It looked like a sure strike. But before Mo hardly realized what was happening, he flung out one of his long arms, out into the corner of the net, and Lionel's ball ricocheted off Mo's outstretched hand. The crowd gasped. Mo had saved Lionel's impressive goal from hitting the net. Nobody could believe it, least of all Mo. Mo felt bad for stopping Lionel's ball from going into the goal and crept towards him to apologize. "Sorry, Lionel," he said in his slow, low voice. "I didn't mean to stop your ball going in. It was a very good kick. The best you've done all day. And I ruined it." Lionel chuckled and replied, "Don't worry about it, Mo. It was a good kick, and I'm sure that Coach Chase could see that too. But you certainly shouldn't be sorry. What you just did was amazing. Nobody else has defended the goal like that. You're a natural." Mo was surprised. He hadn't thought of what he'd done as being anything particularly special. But as he looked at the faces of all the other animals gazing at him, he noticed the astonishment on their faces. Coach Chase blew his whistle gently, and all the animals gathered around. Coach Chase thanked everyone for their time and congratulated them on their efforts. But only 11 animals could make it onto the team this season. As Bennett, the coach's monkey assistant, read out the names of the successful animals who had made it onto the team, everyone held their breath with hope. Despite his missed penalty shot, Ozzy the ostrich made it onto the team, as did Lionel the lemur, regardless of Mo saving his goal. Kylie the kangaroo had, unsurprisingly, made the team, along with the lioness with the powerful kick. As the last of the successful names were called out, Mo's chances grew slimmer and slimmer, until, finally, Bennett lowered his clipboard and announced no further names. The animals who were successful celebrated humbly, and the others congratulated them in good spirits. Mo was happy for his friend, Ozzy, making the team, but he was a little disappointed that he hadn't. As he prepared to make the long, laborious journey home, Mo felt a tap on his fuzzy shoulder. He turned around to see Coach Chase the cheetah standing behind him. Mo was starstruck. Coach Chase was face to face with him. Coach Chase smiled and said, "I believe your name is Slow Mo, is it not?" Mo gulped and nodded his head unhurriedly. Coach Chase beckoned his assistant, Bennett, to bring the ball over to him. Then Coach Chase continued, "Mo, I want to put you to the test. The goal you saved earlier was impressive, but I want to know whether it was just a fluke or if you have a surprising talent." Coach Chase directed Mo to stand back in front of the goal while he made his way to the penalty kick point. Coach Chase placed the ball down at his feet and instructed Mo to try to stop the ball from going into the net. Mo was nervous. Coach Chase, the cheetah, was famous for his perfect penalty kicks. He had never missed in his whole career. Mo didn't think there was any way that he could possibly stop the ball from hitting the back of the net. Coach Chase took a few steps backwards, then began running on the spot, and rushed forward to swipe at the ball with his foot. The ball flew through the air at incredible speed, and Mo watched with his slow-motion vision as the ball hurtled towards him. Following the ball with his eyes, Mo threw his left arm out to the side and reached for the ball as it approached the net. Mo stretched his long fingers and brushed the edge of Coach Chase's ball and flicked it with all his might. To his own amazement, Mo's flick managed to throw the ball off course, and it ricocheted off his fingers and away from the net, hitting the goalpost with a clang and dropping to the floor. Everybody watching gasped with shock, and Coach Chase softly growled with a mixture of annoyance and pleasure. Nobody had ever managed to defend one of his strikes before. Mo stood sheepishly as Coach Chase approached him. He hadn't wanted to upset his idol. Coach Chase towered over Mo the sloth, grinned, and said, "Slow Mo, I have been impressed with your efforts today. You weren't the fastest by far, and you're not a great striker, but you have special skills that others don't. I want you on my team." Mo gasped, and his beady eyes grew wide. How could Coach Chase possibly want him on his team, amongst so many speedy, strong animals like ostriches, lions, and kangaroos? Coach Chase handed Mo a t-shirt and added, "No team is complete without their goalkeeper, and I want you to be ours this season." If Mo could leap for joy, then he would have. But since he couldn't, he mustered up a slow raise of his gangly arms in delight and wrapped them around Coach Chase in a thankful hug. Mo had never been happier. He had made the soccer team, despite the odds. On the first day of the Sleepy Forest soccer season, Coach Chase's team played to an excited crowd of supporters. All the animals of Sleepy Forest came to cheer the team on as they faced off against the team of Yetis from the mountains. While Ozzy the Ostrich and Lionel the Lemur dribbled the ball around the pitch and passed to their strikers, Kylie the Kangaroo and Liana the Lioness, Mo stuck to his important place in the goal. Whenever a ball came his way, he watched intently with his slow-motion vision and blocked every single ball with his long, strong arms. As the first game of the season came to an end, the Sleepy Forest squad won. While every member of the squad played excellently, and they all worked well together as a team, everybody knew that it was Mo who had won the match for them. Without his impressive goalkeeping, the other team would have scored many goals and perhaps beaten them. But Mo didn't let a single one slip past him. As Mo took in the view of the crowd cheering for his team, he smiled his dozy smile with gratitude, and his heart felt like it was growing several times bigger. He closed his eyes to listen to the crowd, and to his amazement, he realized that they were chanting, "Slow Mo, slow Mo, slow Mo, slow Mo." All of a sudden, Mo felt himself being picked up high, and he opened his eyes to see that he had been raised onto the tops of his fellow teammates' shoulders in celebration. The team carried Mo across the pitch, and they paraded in front of the roaring crowd for victory. The crowd didn't stop chanting, "Slow Mo, slow Mo, slow Mo." And even his own teammates were joining in. Mo may have just been a regular sloth who liked to spend his days eating, sleeping, and hanging from the branches of the trees. But he was also a sloth with a dream that had come true against all the odds. Now we are sailing into a soft and peaceful sleep. Feel the soft and cozy support of your bed. Feel the way your body, heavy and happy with sleepiness, is being carried upon it. It is as though you were being carried on gentle ocean currents, on the rising and falling of waves. Feel how they are lapping gently beneath you, bearing you into the land of sleep. These waves carrying you are deep and gentle like our breath. Breathe with the waves. Breathe in and out. In and out. There you go. In and out. In and out. Close your eyes. Let your eyelids be heavy. Let your whole body relax as you sail into sleep. Feel your arms soft and heavy, and your legs and feet soft and heavy too. Let's pay some gentle attention to how our bodies are feeling. Keep your eyes closed and let your mind come unhooked from your head. Your mind is a magical thing. It can stay inside your head, or it can travel all around your body, like a little person wandering around a house to check that all is well. Let your mind travel first to your breath. Feel the breath moving through your nose. Feel the breath moving into your chest or into your tummy, making it rise and fall, rise and fall. Good. Just focus on your breathing. That's wonderful. Now let your mind float down from your breath. Let it travel down one of your arms. Feel the sensation in your arm. Feel how it is heavy on the bed, or maybe soft, tucked underneath your head as you sleep. Let your mind travel down your fingers. First, let your mind wander down to the tip of your thumb. Now down your first finger. Now your middle finger. Now your ring finger. And last but not least, your pinky. What does it feel like at the end of your pinky? Bring your mind back up to your breathing. And breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. Now we're traveling with our mind all the way down our other arm. Let your mind go down each of your fingers on that arm. First, let your mind wander down to the tip of your thumb. Now down your first finger. Now your middle finger. Now your ring finger. And now your pinky. Very good. Now let your mind come back to your chest. soft and heavy, right where your heart is. If you let your mind rest there, you will even be able to feel the gentle beating of your heart. Do you know what your heart says as it's beating? It says, I love, I love, I love. That's what everyone's heartbeat says. I love, I love, I love. And as everyone's heartbeat says that, the world fills up with love. The world fills up with each heartbeat like a lake, filling up with the raindrops that fall from the sky. The lake of love can never be too full, and it can never be empty. The whole world is full of love. You are loved. Your family love you. Your friends love you. People all across the world love you. The animals in the fields and the birds in the trees, and even the trees themselves, they all love you too. And we love them back. That is the beautiful thing about love. You can never give too much of it, because it can never run out. Love is like the water in the lake. There will always be more of it. It falls from the sky like rain and keeps us safe and happy. You are safe. You are happy. You are loved. While you're floating through your dreams, whisper your love to the world. Say, I love you, world. And now, listen out. Hear the world say it back. The world is saying, I love you. The world is gentle, and you are gentle too. The world is kind, and you are kind too. The world is loved, and you are loved too. The rain loves the ground it falls upon, and the ground loves the grass and trees and flowers that grow up out of it. And the grass loves the animals that walk upon it. And so the animals love the world they wander through, because it is so beautiful. And the whole world loves you. Feel how your body is drifting peacefully upon the gentle lake. Let any worries that may have lingered from the day sail away from your mind. Watch them disappear like a whole host of multicoloured helium balloons being released into the sky. Watch them as they go, as they soar up high. Smaller and smaller they get, smaller and smaller, until they are just little specks in the sky. And then they are gone. You are safe. You are kind. There is nothing to worry about as you drift into sleep, because you are drifting on the lake of love. You are safe. You are happy. You are loved. The world is gentle and you are gentle too. The world is kind and you are kind too. The world is love and you are loved too. Close your eyes. Let your eyelids get heavy. Let your limbs get heavy too. Feel your arms and legs falling heavily into your soft and cozy bed. Feel your chest rising and falling with your breathing. Rising and falling like the waves on the lake of love. Sleep, little one. You are safe. You are happy. You are loved. There is more love in this world than there are stars in the sky. There is more kindness in this world than there are droplets of water in the entire lake. The world is gentle, and you are gentle too. The world is kind, and you are kind too. The world is loved, and you are loved too. Good night, little one. Sleep tight.